When did you realize your wife's affair partner helped you? My wife Sarah had girls' night every Friday for 3 years. Wine tasting, book club, yoga retreats, always with her college friends. I never questioned it. Last Monday, I'm at Costco when this guy taps my shoulder. You're Mark, right? Sarah's ex-husband? I'm her current husband, I said. His face went white. She filed divorce papers with you 8 months ago. She showed me the documents. I almost dropped my cart. Who are you? Ryan, her fiance. We're getting married next month. My vision blurred. 3 years of Friday nights. Where does she say she goes on Fridays? Her mom's. She's caring for her after the stroke. Sarah's mom died 4 years ago. I was a pallbearer. Ryan pulled out his phone with shaking hand. Their engagement photos. Her wearing my grandmother's ring, the one she said was stolen. Pictures in the cabin I inherited from my dad. She'd told me she hated it there. She's pregnant, Ryan whispered. 14 weeks. We've been trying for a year. I couldn't breathe. Sarah had her tubes tied after claiming she never wanted kids. Made me get therapy for my baby obsession. Friday night, I said. We both show up. That Friday, Sarah kissed me goodbye. Book club's reading something spicy tonight. An hour later, I'm parked outside Ryan's apartment with him beside me. We watch her walk in with overnight bag. We waited 20 minutes, then knocked. Sarah answered in lingerie. Surprise, honey, Ryan said. I stepped into view. She fainted, actually collapsed. When she came to, she started this insane scramble. You're both here! This is perfect! I was gonna tell you both tonight! Tell us what? I asked. I'm polyamorous. I realized I loved you both. Mark, you're my stability. Ryan, you're my adventure. The baby could bring us together. The baby, Ryan said slowly. From your tied tubes. Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. My dead mother sends regards, I added. She started hyperventilating. Wait, I can explain the logistics. We could live together. Make it work. The divorce lawyer you've been texting is actually my brother, I said. He's been documenting everything for 8 months. Ryan held up his phone. My cousin's a PI. We have everything recorded. The divorce finalized yesterday. Ryan and I are business partners now. We opened a security consulting firm called Trust But Verify. Sarah's Instagram still says, living my truth. The truth is, she's living in her mom's old trailer, alone.
Teachers of Reddit, have you ever had a crush on a student? I wouldn't say I ever had a crush, but I've definitely had moments that caught me off guard. One time I had a student approach me and say, I'll come find you after graduation, while giving a dramatic wink. I laughed it off, thinking it was just a joke, but then realized she was completely serious. Another student once tried to pass me a note during class, which I thought was meant for another student. When I opened it, it just said, you should text me sometime. Needless to say, I pretended I never saw it, and moved on. But the most awkward moment of all happened during cafeteria duty. I noticed a well-dressed young woman sitting at a table. She was poised, confident, and looked much older than the typical students. I assumed she was a new teacher, so I went over, introduced myself, and we started chatting. At one point, she mentioned she was excited about an upcoming trip with her class. I assumed she meant her group of students and asked what subject she taught. She looked at me strangely for a moment before saying, I take AP French. I felt my stomach drop. I had spent my entire lunch period having a professional, friendly conversation, only to realize I had mistaken a student for a teacher. My face must have gone pale because she suddenly smirked and said, you thought I was a teacher, didn't you? I stammered something about how she carried herself maturely, but I could feel my face burning with embarrassment. To make matters worse, the next day, a group of students passed by me in the hall whispering and giggling, with one of them winking.
My father accused me of stealing $20,000 from his safe when I was 19 and cut me out of the family completely, telling everyone I was a thief. 10 years later, while renovating his basement, my brother found the money hidden behind a wall panel with a note in Dad's own handwriting from when he was hiding it during his divorce. Now Dad wants to move past this, but I won't even return his calls. I was working a double shift at the hospital when my brother Dylan called. I almost didn't answer. We hadn't spoken in 8 years. His voice sounded strange. Leo, I found something in Dad's basement. You need to see this. I was 19 when Dad accused me. $20,000 had vanished from his safe, and I was the only suspect. He didn't yell. He just said, I know it was you. Get out. My mother watched from the kitchen, silent. My brother said nothing. I spent that first winter sleeping in my car, showering at the gym, eating gas station sandwiches. I'd been saving for community college. Instead, I worked overnight security and learned to function on 3 hours of sleep. Nobody from my family checked if I was alive. Dylan's text came through while we were still on the phone. A photo of a dusty envelope, cash inside, and a yellow sticky note in Dad's handwriting. Divorce stash. Evelyn can't touch this. Move it before lawyer comes Tuesday. The date on the note was 2 days before he accused me. He knew, I said finally. He knew the whole time. Dylan's voice cracked. Dad wants to talk. He says it was a misunderstanding, that he forgot where he put it. I hung up. 10 years. I'd missed my mother's funeral because Dad told everyone not to tell me she was sick. I'd skipped family weddings, graduations, holidays. I had rebuilt myself from nothing. Nursing degree, good job, my own apartment, all while carrying the weight of being called a thief by the man who raised me. Dad started calling. I let every call go to voicemail. Son, we need to discuss this like adults. It was a difficult time. I was under tremendous stress. Each message made my blood boil hotter. Then came the email from my Aunt Linda, the family gossip. Your father explained everything at dinner last night. He said you've been holding a grudge over a simple mistake. Everyone thinks you should be the bigger person. A simple mistake. He'd branded me a criminal, destroyed my reputation, let me go homeless, and now wanted me to be the bigger person. I called Dylan back. Did he tell everyone the truth about the note, about where he found the money? Silence. Then, he said he misplaced it during the divorce chaos, that you probably didn't take it, but he can't be certain. That's when I knew Dad wasn't sorry. He was managing the narrative. I hired a lawyer. Not to sue, but to send one letter, a formal demand for a written apology, admitting he falsely accused me, to be sent to every family member who'd heard his lies. If he refused, I'd file a defamation suit with the note, the timeline, and Dylan's testimony. He refused, called it extortion, said I was tearing the family apart over ancient history, so I filed. The lawsuit became public record. Local paper ran it. Man sues father over decade-old false theft accusation. The article included the photo of the note. His poker buddies saw it. His church friends saw it. His coworker saw it. Dylan called again, frantic. Dad's humiliated. He's talking about settling. He'll write the apology. Too late, I said. He wanted ancient history brought up. So let's bring it all up. In court, my lawyer presented everything. The note, bank records showing Dad had deposited exactly $20,000 2 months after kicking me out. Testimony from my old boss about how I'd shown up looking homeless and desperate. Dad's lawyer argued he'd simply forgotten that divorce made people do irrational things. The judge wasn't buying it. He ordered Dad to pay damages, cover my legal fees, and issue a formal written apology to be sent to everyone he'd told. The apology arrived in a group email. Sterile, legal, drafted by his lawyer. No emotion, no accountability. I forwarded it to everyone with one line. Note the date this apology was sent versus the date he learned the truth. 10 months. He fought it in court before admitting what he always knew.
I was taking care of my brother's 10-year-old kid, then he turned into the devil. My brother's an idiot. He got his 3rd DUI and had to go and serve some jail time. His wife isn't much better. She's currently in Mexico and has chosen this time to find herself, which consists of her leaving her son Cal with me for what she said was going to be 2 weeks. That turned into 3 months. Cal's a weird kid, but hasn't deserved these dickwads as parents. At first, Cal listened to what I said and was genuinely grateful that I cared for him, but I was just waiting to see when he was going to push some boundaries. It was about 3 weeks into him staying at my house when he tried to push things. I had cooked a pot roast and he said, "I feel like fried chicken." Then he looked at me as if to say, "Why aren't you making that for me?" I responded, "Not tonight, pal. This is what we have, so do your best to enjoy it." He stuck a fork into his piece of pot roast, held it up in the air, and then dropped it onto the floor. I smiled at him and said, "You're gonna pick that up and put it in the trash can, and you're not getting any more dinner." He got up, stepped on the meat, and walked off. I let that one slide because I had built up a lot of empathy for the poor kid. Dad behind bars, mom partying in Mexico. It makes sense that he would start acting out at some point. I just happened to be the only one around that had to take some of it. The next morning, he said, "I'm starving because you didn't feed me last night. What's for breakfast?" I responded, "I made scrambled eggs and toast. Here." I placed it in front of him. He looked at it, then said, "I want French toast and I want a hard-boiled egg, not scrambled." I sharply said, "You're not at a restaurant and I'm not your personal cook. Whatever I make, you're gonna eat or you won't eat." Just like last night. He grabbed the eggs off of the table and hurled them against the wall, busting my plate into pieces. I got angry and said, "Don't ever do that again, and you're gonna clean that up right now." His temper tantrum only got worse from there, and he started grabbing as many plates as he could and smashing them against the wall. I got a hold of his arm and yanked him down, just trying to control him. He started swinging and flailing his little arms and cried. I understood his pain and why he was doing what he was doing. Then later that night, everything got a whole lot worse. He ate the dinner that I had made, but he had this strange, detached glint in his eye, and he stared at me while he ate the entire time without blinking. I thought to myself, is this how psychopaths are made? I was just about to fall asleep when I felt the slightest tinge of his breath on my neck. I opened my eyes and saw his face about 2 inches away from mine. I asked, "Are you okay?" He just shook his head no. I said, "Why don't you let me take you back to bed?" I started to get up, then looked down, and he had the tip of my sharpest knife pressed against my throat. I gently said, "You need to get that knife away from my neck right now." He smiled and didn't budge at all. Then he said, "I could end your life right now." I got really mad and gripped onto his wrist, and to my complete surprise, he tried as hard as he could to actually stab into my throat. The leverage he had made it difficult for me to push his hand away, so I had to clock him in the eye. He fell backwards and looked at me like I was an abusive monster and burst into tears. I had no idea what to do. I know the kid is messed up and angry and in a lot of pain, but how do you teach a child to not be violent?
I made sure all my knives or anything sharp at all was unreachable. He went to sleep as if nothing happened. I tried to find a child psychologist, but was told to try back in the morning. Then around 3 a.m., I had just dozed off and I smelled something strong. I jolted up and saw that he had poured an entire can of gas all over the floor and was holding a match.
He smiled and held up the match like he was about to win a prize. I said, "Blow that match out right now. This is serious." It was like he was overtaken by an evil force, and he tossed the lit match at my feet. The floor burst into flames, and within seconds, I was fully surrounded by fire. My only chance was to make it to the bathroom. I stepped up onto my bed and leaped over some flames and made it to the bathroom. The heat scorched the back of my legs, giving me second-degree burns. I was lucky to survive. My house, on the other hand, wasn't. The police arrived and they took Cal away. They said he would be tried in court as a minor. Then a judge would decide where to send him. Before they took him away, he looked at me and said, "This wasn't your fault. I just wanted to be where my dad is."
I thought my son was going to ruin my sister's wedding, but what he said changed everything. The wedding was in full swing. My sister was getting ready to walk down the aisle when my 6-year-old son, Andrew, tugged on my sleeve. "Mom, I need you to tell you something before they say the vows," he whispered urgently. I bent down and whispered, "Not now," I said. "But if I don't tell you, someone is going to cry and yell or be mad," Andrew said, terrified. My stomach dropped, my breath caught. My son isn't a troublemaker. In fact, he's pretty much the opposite. He reminds teachers to collect homework and panics when he thinks he's broken a rule. So when he looked at me like he was about to cry, I believed him. "What is going on?" I asked him in a whisper. Andrew looked at the altar where my sister now stood, the groom, and my mother. "He's lying, and so is Grandma," Andrew said, certain. I felt my face twist into confusion, and my heart thumped. "About what?" Before he could answer, the music stopped. The officiant cleared his throat. The vows were about to begin. I had seconds. I looked at Andrew's fear showing on his face and made a decision. I looked at my mother. "Mom, what is Andrew talking about?" I asked. My mother sat up straight and she fidgeted, her usual tell that something was up. She didn't look at me, and I knew something was wrong. During the opening of the ceremony, Andrew kept pulling on my sleeve. "Please, please, Mom," he begged me. When the officiant asked if anyone had any objections to the two of them marrying, I stood up. "Wait," I said, even though my voice rang in my ears and my heart went to my throat. Everything stopped. People turned in their seats. My sister hissed my name. The officiant paused. My mother went white. "I just need a minute," I said, suddenly nervous. I turned to my mother. "Tell them about what Andrew said, or I will." I tell her bluffing I had no idea what she would be lying about. My mother swallowed hard. My mother cleared her throat. "The groom isn't who he says he is," my mother announced. "The groom looked like he was trying to plan an escape." "What?" He laughed, trying to play it off. Then Andrew climbed on top of the pew. He told Grandma his name isn't really Matthew, it's Jasper. Andrew pointed at the groom. The church was heavy with quiet. The groom started to laugh at hysterical laughter. This is ridiculous. He turned to my sister. Your nephew likes to tell stories, he insisted. My mother stood up shaking. She admitted to randomly running into the groom a few months earlier, that he recognized her and called her by her maiden name, asked her if she remembered what had happened 5 years ago. My mother admitted she didn't, but he filled in the blanks. My sister's groom wasn't Matthew at all. His real name was Jasper. He dated my sister in college briefly. They broke up badly enough it resulted in a restraining order against him. Then he disappeared, got a new name, had some surgery, but the same smile. My sister had no idea. The groom shifted. That's not fair. People change. He sputtered. Andrew shook his head and yelled. He yelled at Grandma. I heard it when I came from the bathroom. I hid. He didn't know I was there. Told Grandma that if she ruined this, he'd make sure Grandma would lose her house, Andrew said. There were gasps from the crowd. Murmurs started, and my sister's groom looked panicked now. He moved his hand to his jacket pocket. That's when all the chaos started. The groom lunged at my sister, grabbing her arm tight as he dragged her off the altar steps towards the exit and pulled out a weapon. Nobody moves! He was wild and unhinged. It felt like I was in a really bad movie, only it was the truth. My sister's wedding. A photographer instinctively snapped a picture. Someone was calling the police. I protectively held Andrew close. My mother fainted. My sister was sobbing. By the time my sister and her groom reached the doors, the wedding security and police officers met them. They managed to get my sister separated and her fiancé cuffed. As they took him away, he was shouting, I'll come back. I will still get that money. You're nothing without me, he yelled as he was escorted away to the police cars. It turns out he knew about my grandma's clause in her will that for my sister to inherit, she had to be married. He thought he'd marry her, drain my sister dry, and leave with his mistress. Instead of being angry, my sister hugged Andrew and thanked him for ruining her wedding.